G'day Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs, Media Watch for the NRL. It's the new segment. I've done quite a few of these sort of stories which involve the NRL and the media and that sort of stuff. And I thought I would give them their own sort of title. I think it's very, very important that the media are held to account, especially in relation to Canterbury. It's important that we have our facts. It's important that we have all the information on the table and we have numerous sides given, because quite often with the media, it's usually presenting one side of the story, rarely has a strong devil's advocate in place. Sometimes they put one there on the TV shows. They'll have three people in agreement on an issue and then have one person sort of raise a few small points for the other, but really the headline's about pushing the one narrative. And it's important. Look, they sell the game, that's the disclaimer. They've got to create discussion topics. They've got to have stories for the advertisers who pay for the game overall and pay the players. It's just a really shitty cycle sometimes. But I need to talk about this Rugby League Players Association. When you've got Channel 9 and Foxtel and News Corp all sitting in the room with their journalists, all pointing their finger at the one person, making a witch hunt on them, be rest assured that person's doing their job when it comes to a representative body of the employees. Be rest assured. Now, whether they go about it the right way, whether they can articulate their points well, whether they're, whatever. If everyone's mocking them, pointing their finger at them, be rest assured, my guarantee, they are doing their job. A players' association is not a union. It is put there as a front for the players, to give the players some feeling that they've got some sort of control over their future. But it's not a union, because a union will go to a lot bigger steps, right? The thing is, an association or an employee body created by the NRL itself has done so it can have some sort of control over these employees. But it's a unique situation that the employees are also the product. So it's a very fine juggling act. They don't want the heroes and a few villains copping the brunt of the blame for this. They don't want the NRL. They'd rather point the finger at the NRL. But the NRL sits with the media in this state because the media pay the NRL, who pay the players, right? And what they're deliberately doing is trying to make it look like Clint Newton is the one holding things up. They're trying to turn the players against him, and they're trying to turn the clubs against him. They're trying to turn the people against him. And I've seen this done so many times, okay? Look, sometimes there are villains that deserve to have the finger pointed at them. But in this case, this is all about trying to get Clint Newton fired for doing his job and getting him removed, and making sure the next person who steps into his shoes, if that happens, which is likely, to make sure that they know who their daddy is. And to make sure they know, so when they're told to sit, that they sit. When they're told to jump, they ask how high. That's what it comes down to. Now, look, I understand the NRL and the media wanting to have power over the product that they run and pay for. I get that, 100%. But also understand the players should be able to be consulted on things that impact them. And it is a private enterprise bargaining agreement, which means that the finer details of the agreement shouldn't be discussed for every fan and every person to know about. It's a private contract. And I'm sure the NRL has certain stipulations in contracts which players aren't allowed to or supposed to talk about. Same with most employers. Now, they create these bodies because they want to have a front, and they don't want a union involved, an actual union. And if an actual union body gets created for rugby league, that's a proper union, it's going to create problems for the NRL. When we've got influences of insurance and the threat and the risk and exposure that players face, it's a really hard juggling act. I think Clint Newton is doing his job because they're all mocking him and pointing the finger at him. James Hooper, what he said, and that's in my title, is unacceptable. To sit there and say that Clint Newton's got his head up his proverbial ass, say it to him when you've got him there, mate. Don't sit there and with three other blokes and try and big note yourself, trying to be funny. And the thing about James Hooper is he's always on the side of popularity, of where history would think the popular opinion is, where he thinks the popular opinion is. He's always the one who yells the loudest in the praise. He's always the one who yells the loudest in the outrage. Right? And that's how he... Look, some of the stuff I like from James Hooper. I can like things and not like things about people and say it. So many people believe you've got to be one way or the other. In my opinion, what he said was cowardly, and in my opinion, he goes about his role, and he's quite easy to change his tone. And I think he feels quite manly about that he can sit there and put someone down and then praise them when they make it back. I think, but at the end of the day, he's just sitting on the popular side of the opinion at the time. He's rarely the devil's advocate. He's rarely the one standing up for the little guy, or the one being the one that everyone's pointing the finger at. And he loves a witch hunt, especially on the West Tigers, which I think he's a fan. But all he does, from what I can see, is create situations which make his club look even worse than they already do. But Clint Newton, obviously doing his job. Now, the NRL doesn't want a situation where they attack the likes of Daly Cherry Evans and such, because they are the product as well as the employee. But for all these journos to sit there and say that they talk to the players and the players don't understand or are vague about it, and they know well and truly that if the players' salaries are threatened, they will abandon ship. They won't hold the line, and they'll become fodder, and they'll get less out of it. So when they talk about that Clint Newton wants power, does he really? Does he really want power? I don't believe so. I think he knows his probably career's toast, because he's standing up for what the players are saying they want and need. And that's to have consultation over how many games they play. What's the point of a pay increase if all of a sudden you're then told you've got to work more hours for it? How much of an increase is it actually? It makes sense to me. And with the fact that every time they run out there, again, in a situation where the players are faster, where there's more time in play, less stoppages, bigger, more solid across the board, the risks are higher than they've ever been. That's the thing. That's the point. And if they're going to be told or dictated to, and I can understand the governing body and the media who pay for it all wanting to be able to have control over that, and they don't want their employees to tell them how to run their business and how to make money out of their business. I get that, right? 100%. And that's why this is an actual a sticking point. That's why it's actually taking time. And the players want to get it sorted. They want to know, they want to get their pay rises, right? And they also want to know that if they're going to risk themselves in more games a year and put out in more games a year, that they get a say in the outcome, okay? They get to vote on it. And I think that's fair enough. And I don't know what the best solution is, because I think both sides have an argument. I really do. And I would hate to be the one at the head of the Players Association, because he's the one who's going to be the scapegoat. Because they can't demonise the players, and they're sort of already doing that. At the same time, they can't, so they've got to find a scapegoat, and the scapegoat's Clint Newton. Because I want to make sure that the next person who takes over, if there is one, which is looking very likely, doesn't do their job, essentially. That they know where their bread is buttered, trying to be smart there, saying wise old things, and that they fall into line. That's what they want to do, and that's the power they want. So the power is actually coming from the corporations, not from the players. And what they'll probably end up doing is having Clint Newton step away, and he will fall away into a disgrace. And I wouldn't even be surprised if they have cameras on him trying to, get him on something, because this is how the media operate. Yeah, they want to be able to prove that this guy was a cockhead all along, and he better be beyond reproach in what he does for standing up for the rights of the players and doing what they've asked him to do. Essentially, they all vote on it. They've all got to vote. So it can't be just him. And they want to make sure. So what might end up happening, he might have to walk away, and the players will probably boot him because of what the media is doing and how they're manipulating this. And then they might actually get what they want. And then they'll make it look like that Clint Newton was the only one holding things up. That's what they're going to do. They're already doing that. But that's what they'll do. He'll walk away. The NRL will sign off on a lot of stuff. And the next person will know that if they stand up to the NRL the same way Clint Newton did, they'll end up in the same sort of position. I'd find it very unlikely. He might get a job in the unions, because I'd say the unions know exactly how this plays. So he might get himself a role in some sort of union, but or some sort of role like that. But commercially speaking, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. And the way they've been so dismissive of him as a person, the way that they've witch hunted him, they're all pointing the finger, mocking him, is just unacceptable. I think they took it too far on NRL 360 last night. And, like even Gordy in that. I like Gordy a lot. Really good guy. I think he may not even he's like a player himself. He may not even realise. He may feel that he's telling the truth when he's in the dark about it all and doesn't understand. But the fact of the matter is, Newscorp and Channel 9, they know. They know what the nitty-gritty is. They know what the dispute's over. Yet they make out like it's this vague thing that Clint Newton's unable to explain to everyone. And they're doing that deliberately because they want to make sure that they don't have these representatives standing up the way they have. And you'll find historically, through big business has always had the media on their side, always had the police on their side, stuff like that. It's always been the way, because they pay the money to the media. And the media is loyal to whoever's paying them the money. And people who stand up and hold things up and hold corporations up, they're the ones who get demonised. It's always been the way, and it'll always continue to be the way. Anyway, guys, that's Media Watch NRL. I have another episode coming out as well. It's a much smaller episode, just about asking questions about the Broncos and how biased the game is towards them. and whether that's true or just a perception from a Bulldogs fan. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Hope this made sense, and interested to hear other points of view as well. Thank you.